I walked out of my interview today. I walked in the front door of the facility at 2:30 today, exactly when I was due to meet the director at the front lobby. I spoke with an employee who paged him, and I was told that he'd be right over in just a minute. At 2:45, I just walked out and left. 15 minutes. I know our industry, and there's no good reason for me to wait more than a few minutes. All I see is a giant red flag waving. This company is testing your patience because they want to be sure that the candidate is desperate, because they're going to abuse them. The interview for my current position started about 30 minutes late, but it was communicated to me immediately when I got there that there was an issue being worked on. So I waited in the lounge and eventually got to my interview. The key point was that someone explained to me what was happening right away instead of just having me sit there. They will without a doubt push 15 minutes early to a shift is good practice. But of course, your time is valueless to them. An interview is a sales pitch both ways. Good for walking out. I'd kiff that's why they had you waiting. But that's good on you for leaving. Your time should definitely be respected. But if you were 15 minutes late at the job, you'd get docked on your pay or reprimanded. Lol, I always showed up to work a few minutes early one day, and an old dude who worked with us asked me to show him how to do something on his timesheet website you had to log into. So I did, and clocked in 1 minute late. Manager tried writing me up. I refused and explained what happened. He said not my problem, sign it or go home, so I went home. Not 15 minutes later he called me back saying his other tech called in and I need to come back. I couldn't have smiled any harder as I said not my problem and hung up. Fuck that job. It's not the 15 minutes that is the problem, it's not being given an explanation or update after 15 minutes that is the problem. I have run several businesses and there are days full of meetings, appointments, and they frequently require rescheduling or one of the parties runs late. It's common. It's also common courtesy to notify the other parties as soon as possible when you know you will be at least 15 minutes late. I would never let someone wait that long without word from me. Highly disrespectful of their time. Everyone's time deserves to be respected. If they hold their employees to the standard of always being on time or early, then why shouldn't they be held to the same standard? I don't blame you at all. On to the next interview. Good luck. I had a recruiter go on vacation and they did not reschedule an interview before they left. It was a phone screen too, so I wasn't involved. The applicant sat in a Zoom call for like 1–2 hours and no one knew until they left and then reached out to me. I think they rescheduled, but I'd be tempted to not in such an instance. If you don't respect your time, no one else will either. You show up late and don't get the job. They should be held to the same standards. Thank you for doing this. Putting an end to toxic work environments is a team effort. Your time is just as valuable as theirs is. I was a hiring manager for a lot of years, and if I was going to be late for an interview I would communicate that to the interviewee directly, or if I couldn't, someone else on the team would. If hired, I certainly would expect you to communicate with me about it, if you had a clock-in out time. I never ask someone to do something I'm not willing to do myself. You were in the right. Some people just don't know how to unhook their lips from C-suite sass. Good lord, there are a lot of bootlickers on this thread. Being late as an employee is unacceptable and grounds for termination. Who the fuck cares what super important task the interviewer was doing? 5 minutes late and they should have phoned the receptionist to give an update. Their time isn't worth more than ours. Good on op for walking out. Ask yourself, if you didn't call ahead and just came in 15 minutes late, if they would have this I'm sure they were busy attitude. Good grief. The interviewer could have done a simple follow-up with the employee that called him to say something would have been better than nothing. Apple did this to me once. Made me wait 1 hour with 2 other candidates and I was desperate. It wasn't until they did it for the 3rd interview asking the exact same questions I bailed them out. TBH, I didn't have unemployment and I was literally so desperate. I regularly conduct candidate interviews. Priority 1 is being on time for the interview. Anything else can wait. It's so disrespectful to someone who is not getting paid for their time to make them wait. Devil's advocate here. I waited 30 minutes over for an interview one time. Yes, I was desperate. Best bosses I have ever had. Still work there. They let me leave early whenever I get my work done with same pay as if I stayed the whole day. Give me extra paid vacation time off that I don't even ask for. Don't ask questions if I call in sick. Truly seem to care about my well-being and making sure I'm happy, so I will stick around. Yearly raises that even I am surprised how much more they offer me each year. So yeah, sometimes it pays off to just be patient and wait. Good on you. I know places where it may take 10 minutes alone just to get to the front desk. That being said, 15 minutes without any explanation beforehand is not okay, but I still would have waited maybe 30. It's not like I have anything else planned on a day I go to an interview. I did the opposite one time, embarrassed smiley face. I was late for the interview but they still interviewed me and actually hired me, smiley face. I once waited an hour for the admin to then say, oh, you weren't supposed to be scheduled today, and rescheduled for next week, same day and time. Gave them 10 minutes before I walked out the next week if I remember correctly, even emailed the recruiter telling them to take my name out of consideration as I didn't want to work somewhere so disorganized and unprofessional. This was the first time I really stood up for myself and never felt better in my life. So I was once offered a job because I did this. Showed up, met the owner, we talked but he was being pretty rude, so I said anyways. Walked to my car and drove off. He messaged me that night with one sentence, when can you start? Just in case anyone needs to hear it, say no. The yes man gets used, the fuck you buddy gets respect. I don't mean this just to play devil's advocate, but I once kept an interviewee waiting 20 minutes because one of my team members was having an anxiety attack and I was helping her to relax. I didn't feel comfortable telling the receptionist what was going on because it was so personal, so I just kept saying, please ask the person nicely to just give me a few more minutes. It's been my experience that a workplace where meetings do not start or end on time are mismanaged toxic workplaces. Things happen, of course. But in a sane workplace, someone will reach out and apologize when there is a delay. The fact that they let you sit there without saying anything for 15 minutes tells you all you need to know about this company. One time someone was late for my interview. It was the worst, most abusive job I ever had. There are a lot of motherfuckers in here suggesting he dump on the receptionist. As a former receptionist, it's an underpaid position that takes a lot of shit for things they're not responsible for, so maybe blame the bosses, not your fellow workers, you assholes. All these self-important pricks need to learn that their time is not the most important. Good on you op. If you walked in the front door at 2:30 for a 2:30 interview, like you said, that's really not on time where I come from. That's pretty ridiculous. I'd say a 15 minutes wait on interview is pretty standard. I've left after 45 minutes sure, but even then I gave them the option to call me and reschedule. I mean, 15 minutes isn't that big a deal emo. 30 with no word? Yeah, that would cause concern. I mean, more power to you, but I think you overreacted. Dude. 15 minutes could literally be anything. I'd have waited and at least heard him out or talked to the receptionist and asked if you could reschedule. Good. Especially with all the rounds of interviewing tasks, the shit gets old and is so exhausting. I almost did the same. Was taking a basic problem-solving skills test for a staffing agency and the proctor did this test sees how well you follow instructions. Did anyone remember what I told them to do when we got started? Write your name on your paper before anything else. See? You're showing to me that you don't follow instructions. Jesus, lady. Do you need laborers or not?